On today's show, you may remember him as former WWE superstar Ridge Holland. Please welcome Luke Menzies.
This is Luke Menzies. Looking forward to chopping it up on the Mike Rand show. We'll discuss everything from surgery to wrestling to whatever he wants to talk about. So, yeah, let's do it.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Mike Rand Show. And today's special guest is former WWE superstar Ridge Holland. Please welcome Luke Menzies. Hey, Luke, how you doing?
Hey, Mike, how are you? Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Good. Thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure.
And I just want to ask you, the first thing I got to ask you, Luke, is this may be the first time people have seen you since surgery. And I want to know, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. Honestly, tons better than what I was. Obviously, I had the foot surgery in early October, and then I had the double cervical disc replacement in early November. And then just this past Friday, I had the hardware taken out of the foot. So fingers crossed, that's the last time I'm going to get cut for a while. I'm kind of over surgeries. I feel like I've donated my body to medical science recently. So yeah, but I'm feeling good, man. Optimistic about the future.
That's great. What was it like during this period of time? Was it challenging for you going through all this?
Yeah, very challenging. Just from just from a mental standpoint, I'm a very active individual, and just having to be laid up and rely on other people. My wife's been a big support, and obviously not being able to kind of be active with the kids has been a big thing. But it's kind of you've got to kind of take a step back and realize that it's all for the greater good and to recover, because you don't want anything to push it too hard or push it too far, and it impacts your recovery. And the last thing I want to do is be out of action or not be able to be fully functional for longer than I need to be.
All right, so now that we established that you're back on your feet, now something a little more traumatic. And that's what happened a couple days after your 10th birthday in the UK. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, but I feel you can't call yourself a proper Brit if you don't know what I'm referring to. Do you know what I'm referring to?
You've lost me. I don't have a clue. I'm sure you're gonna let me know.
All right. Ginger left the Spice Girls.
Oh dear.
Now
Yeah.
I gotta know, what was it like growing up in school? Because you were 10 years old when that happened,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was huge here in the States. What was it like over there? Do you remember that moment?
Um, vaguely, I do. Growing up in the UK, obviously, like the Spice Girls, and then obviously there was a connection with David Beckham. Obviously, being soccer being the national pastime, they were huge, they were everywhere, and I think you guys in the States felt that crossover there. But yeah, the Spice Girls were huge. I've got a younger sister. She was married to the Spice Girls. I'm the well, I was, but I was the only boy in my family. I had my sister and then two female cousins, and they were all in the Spice Girls. So I was just surrounded by like Spice Girl mania, as it were. So, but as far as Ginger leaving, I can't really, I can't really say I was disappointed. I didn't really pay that much attention, to be honest. But yeah, big thing.
And they had Five out there, Take That, All Saints, all those bands. I remember them, all those bands from
Yeah,
over in the
it's
UK.
it's funny. It's funny actually. I was on my playlist. Sometimes I like to go back and put like, 90s UK hits on, and it's funny. I was in the gym early, and Take That was on. So I was in the gym there, like me looking like I do, and then I'm listening to Take That in my headphones. So yeah, little bit of a disconnect there for people, I guess.
What was it like growing up in the UK? And what are the differences that you've seen, like living in the UK and living here in the States?
A good question. So growing up in the UK, I'm from a very working class background, northern town, a town called Liversidge, which is kind of in between like two or three bigger cities. Um, and the areas was famous for kind of like it was a mill area, so they were famous for textiles. So obviously wool and things like that. And my grandfather actually owned a carpet factory back in the day. So I remember just growing up there, and even on my off days from school, I'd go and help out at the factory and lifting carpets, doing whatever like remedial jobs that he'd have me do. And yeah, and the thing I think the difference I think is there's a little bit of a difference in the sense of humor and obviously like the accent and how I talk. I can get myself into trouble. Everyone's like, "Yo, slow down, enunciate," over here. So, and the vernacular and some curse words that are more acceptable in the UK that aren't very acceptable in the States. I swear like a trooper and curse like a trooper. So sometimes I have to hold myself back because what's acceptable in the UK can kind of get you into a bit of a pickle over here. So that's one of the big things. And obviously, I'm based in Florida, so one of the biggest positive changes has been the weather. Which is great. It's a far cry from everything being wet, dark, and grey.
Oh yeah, here we just got 2 feet of snow, so I wasn't looking forward to that when we had to clean that
No,
up.
no, yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of clients that I coach actually online, and they're they've just had that blizzard like around that Boston area and stuff, and it's crazy. Some of the pictures, unreal.
Now, before you got into wrestling, you played rugby professionally. So tell me how you got involved in that.
So again, being from like a small working class town, you either grew up and you wanted to be, you know, a policeman, a bricklayer, get a trade, or you played sports, and a big sport in my area was rugby league. My dad played. Um, he played amateur, never played pro, but he kind of nudged me in that direction. So when I was like 7, 8, he said, "Okay, let's kind of sign you up for a grassroots club." And I started playing rugby. Kind of fell in love with it. Obviously, I wanted to impress my dad, and there's a bit of validation there. And I happened just to turn turn professional at the age of 17, which is kind of like it's kind of common in the UK but unheard of over here in the States. So I was playing professionally against grown men at 17 years old. It was like a 17-year-old going to play in the NFL. Um, so yeah, I played made my debut at 17. I had 12 good years playing professional rugby for quite a few clubs over the north of England, and it was a good experience. It's a tough sport. It's kind of the break you then make your mentality, quite an old school mentality when it comes to the training and just kind of like the mindset of it. So I would say that it's stood me in good stead to you know have a little resolve and some grit and some mental toughness coming over here and diving in with 2 feet into the wrestling business.
What did rugby teach you that you used when you transitioned into the wrestling business?
I think it was more like from a physical aspect of like we used to get just beaten up. Like my job was just to run through brick walls for a living, and so you take lumps and you get hurt, you play hurt. So it was just being used to the grind of taking the bumps in the ring and not being phased by them, because that's one of the main things that you see from people who come and start wrestling. They kind of shy away from the contact side of it, but that was something that's always been my strength. I've always been massively into contact sports and contact in general. So I think being used to that in rugby, it was just something I was used to it. Like the bumps never really bothered me. Hitting the ropes or anything, being physical never really bothered me. So I think that the physical attributes from rugby kind of carried over into the pro wrestling world.
How did you wind up into WWE?
So I'll try and make this brief, but so I got married and I went on honeymoon to Cancun. I was playing for a club called the Salford Red Devils, which is a club in the north of England. And then on my honeymoon, I got a call, and they kind of fired me over the phone, or I think it might have been via email. I can't remember either or. It was. Um, and so I was like, oh well, I'd always been a fan of wrestling, watching wrestling since I was like 5 years old with my grandmother, with my nan, the old British style. We used to watch reruns of Big Daddy and the World of Sport stuff. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I'd kind of tried to foray into it earlier, but I told the wrong people, and then the rugby guys get hold of it, and you get kind of, you get bashed about a little bit. But I saw a tweet from William Regal, and it was putting over the coaching services of the guy that trained him or retrained him, Marty Jones, who was like, I think he was like a 6-time world mid heavyweight champion in the World of Sport days. So I shot him an email while I was in bed in Mexico. He emailed me back. 2 days later, I flew home and I drove to Oldham, where he was based, and that was my first wrestling practice. From there, around 6 months later, WWE came on a European tour. They had a tryout in Glasgow. Marty put in a word for me. I went to the tryout not expecting anything. Marty had said, nothing will probably come of it, but it'll be a good experience nonetheless. The first day went really well. I was still under contract. In that time, I'd signed for another rugby club just before the actual tryout. And so the first day, I remember Canyon Seaman sat me down. He said, "Look, we're interested. How easy is it to get out of rugby contracts?" And I was like, "Let me show you." So from there, I spoke to Triple H and kind of a handshake deal, really. And so I went back, spoke to the rugby club, got out of that deal. And then we started the process of, medicals and coming over and moving across. But the sticking point was that my visa got declined. So I ended up selling my house. I was due to move over in 2 weeks, and we were just waiting on the visa to be approved. So I'd sold my house, and then the visa got declined. So then me and my wife, who was pregnant at the time, we had to move in with my grandfather, and I had to just go work on the Indies and prove that I actually was a wrestler to the US government. So what I would do is I would say, I'll work these independent shows, but I have to be on the poster so that I could send that into the US government for the visa petition, for the proof. So I did that for 8 months, and then came for the second set of medicals, and the visa got approved, and I started at the PC. I think it was the 15th of July 2018. Yeah.
Was it tough leaving a sport that you knew so much about to chase a new dream?
Yeah, like it was everyone. I mean, everyone, including my wife, were like, "What are you doing? Like, this is kind of like pie in the sky type stuff." Because I kind of kept like my love for wrestling a little bit secret. Even my wife didn't know that I was as big a fan as I was. So it was a massive change for her. And I remember, old teammates texting me when I was working the Indies, taking the proverbial mick out of me, with clips at the saw line. And so it was a big change, and I had a lot of naysayers. But it was like I'd already dove in with 2 feet, and I was committed to doing the best that I could. So I just followed through, and I had some help along the way, and it ended up working out. And now those same people who were detractors ended up hey, the WWE's coming to town, can we get some tickets? So they went from kind of one extreme to the other, really.
What did that moment when you were signed to WWE meant for you personally, and what did it represent to you?
It was I couldn't really believe it, because WWE was such a big entity, and no one from my town. I think the only other person who from my area that signed for WWE was Dave Taylor, and the might Ollie Brown as well, but he was in FCW. So it was kind of, especially, and definitely no other rugby league players. So it was a big thing. It was kind of like, oh, I don't really know what to do. I don't know what to expect. And even just kind of moving to another country, it's kind of, you just go out there and you just try and figure it out. There's no kind of guidebook. There's no instructions. It's like, okay, we'll go. We'll do his best. Goes with it. eyes open, ears open, mouth shut. Try and learn as much and see if this works out.
What were those early days of NXT for you?
I I love those early days of NXT and being in the performance center, being in the ring every day and going to extra ring, and then we had obviously tapings at Full Sail on a Wednesday, and we'd all go there, watch suit, wear our suits and watch the guys like your Adam Coles and your Roderick Strongs, Finn Balor's, all those guys perform, and then we'd go on the coconut loops, uh, Friday, Thursday, Friday through Sunday, Thursday through Sunday. Things change. And just going on the road and learning as much as you can. It was great, just learning and soaking it up. And it's kind of changed because back in NXT you had these veterans to learn from, guys that had worked like in Ring of Honor and they'd done like PWG, guys that had worked in Japan. You had those vets that kind of set the standard of how you should act and carry yourself as a performer and as a talent. So it was always great to kind of level yourself up, and the progression I felt for myself was quite fast. I think I took to it really fast, and there was always a ton of potential there. And I heard there were big things, big plans, and um, yeah, I love those early days of NXT. It's kind of like the climb is always more uh, enjoyable than when you kind of either get called up. All the hard work that you put in to get to the promised land, as it were, is always a lot more enjoyable.
Who were some of the people that you naturally gravitated to in the beginning that you just bonded with them instantly?
So uh, Pete Dunne was initially on my tryout. I'm still big friends with Pete, Tyler, all the UK guys. A year after I was there, Bronson Reed came to the PC. I'm still great friends with Bronson Reed, and then from kind of like a mentorship perspective, like Roderick Strong was a big influence. Still in contact with Roddy now, and yeah, he was always a big influence. And I think some of those experienced guys that saw a little bit of something in me. Um, I'm just a bit disappointed that I never got the chance due to injury to work with the likes of your Adam Coles. I managed to get in there with Kyle O'Reilly, which was fantastic. Kyle's awesome. You know, and yeah, there's a ton of guys. Tommaso Ciampa, who I had a couple of runnings with there after injury. It's kind of those crop of guys that kind of set the standard for the black and gold brand, that made it what it was. Obviously I missed kind of like the Kevin Owens and the Shinsuke's, and the Finn Balor's, and the Nevilles and the Sami Zayn's. But those guys, like, Undisputed Era, Tommaso, those guys kind of held the fort. And obviously Pete as well, he was doing great things.
Now, during that initial NXT run, you did unfortunately get injured at one point where you were out for a while. Can you talk to us about what that was like?
Yeah, for sure. So initially I was in line for quite a substantial uh, push, going ahead and working with, leading up to War Games against Undisputed Era, which would have been great for me. I was still green and up and coming, and leading towards that, I was in a match with Oni Lorcan, and we did a thing where I was on the outside. He did one dive, slid back in, did another dive, and on the third dive, I was supposed to catch him and then give him a suplex on the floor. I caught him, but my footing was wrong. Ended up snapping my right ankle, and then with me holding him, all the weight transferred to my right leg, which therefore kind of dislocated my kneecap and ruptured my patella tendon. So I was out for like 10 months with that injury. I just remember the refs rushing over and the medics, and he had like two medics saying it's his right leg, it's his right leg, and then the other two were like, it's his left leg, and I'm on the floor going, it's both. So yeah, kind of a catastrophic injury really, and kind of I don't think you'll see one of those again like that.
Now, in 2021, you got drafted to SmackDown, and it was time for fight night because you got to work with Sheamus. Can you tell us what it was like
Yeah.
working with Sheamus? and being drafted to SmackDown.
Yeah, it's a funny story about being drafted. I'd kind of not that I knew that I was going to be drafted, but I'd kind of surmised myself because there was nothing happening in NXT. I thought, well, I'm either going to get canned or I'm going to get called up. And then I remember I was sat watching SmackDown, eating my last meal of the day, watching the draft, and then I just heard my name mentioned, and I nearly choked. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to SmackDown, and the way that it panned out was kind of like the kind of story arc was that I grew up watching Sheamus. I was a big fan of Sheamus and used to watch him in the pub and stuff. And I mean, it was a bit, in my opinion, it would have been better if I would have had a couple of kind of initial outings on the main roster, and then you'd have Sheamus kind of watching backstage on a monitor and stuff, and then liking my style, and then he finally takes me under his wing. But for me, being like a bit of a fanboy, I just think we could have done things a little bit better for the both of us. But it was an opportunity, and it was a great opportunity, so I'm massively grateful for that. And then obviously Pete joined the fray, and we became the Brawling Brutes, and we had some good times. We managed to get ourselves over as a unit. I think that there was a lot of legs with that group. I kind of like, much like my time in NXT. I just think that we never really pushed it as hard as we could, and got the most out of that group. But it was fun nonetheless, traveling down the road. And obviously Sheamus is, he's a certified Hall of Famer right now. He's killed it. He's had a great career. So being able to be around him, and it almost kind of give you a little bit of a like legitimacy, or a little bit of a safety net being associated with him. You weren't just on your own. So it was great. Yeah.
Now, there was a match between the Brawling Brutes and the New Day where unfortunately there was an injury to Big E. Can you tell us about your perspective on this? And do you feel that that derailed your career or momentum at all?
Well, in a word, yeah. It was just something. I remember that day we'd been in a meeting with Vince, and everything was to the last minute. So we were putting the match together pretty last minute. And I remember he took the big suicide spill. He used to do the suicide dive or the suicide spear to the outside, and I moved. He took a tumble, and I'd thrown belly to belly before. It was something that I'd done. I'd done Keith Lee. And unfortunately, in wrestling, things go wrong. And I think from that moment, it's like Big E was a huge star and so loved, that there was a massive backlash. And even me being relatively new on the roster as well, even to the higher ups, the old boys that had been around, they're gonna have to point the finger at somebody. And yeah, they pointed the finger at me, and I think that it kind of always hung over me as a black cloud in my career, and I never really got past it. I couldn't shake it. It was just something that it just is what it is. And I always say that, like, yeah, Big E's career unfortunately ended that day, but I think so did mine in a way. But at least my career with WWE, um, I always regret it. Me and Big E have spoke. He's such a wonderful human being. He holds no no animosity towards me, and he's in a great spot right now in his life, which I'm super happy for. It's just one of those things, and I'm looking forward to putting it behind me, and moving on, and hopefully I can kind of, if and when the time comes for me to put my boots back on, that I can reinvent myself.
Yes, and I was just reading Big E actually had an interview the other day where he was discussing this, and I mean, unfortunately, wrestlers get hurt all the time in the sport. That's something that comes with the sport that there's just no way to know, that's part of the risk. But where do you and Big E stand today? Are you still in contact with Big E?
I mean, we're not. I wouldn't say we text daily or weekly or monthly, but I think there's a mutual respect there. I tried to conduct myself as well as I could after the injury to make sure he was okay, and make sure that my intentions were that I was super apologetic and felt, you know, just made sure that he knew how I felt about the situation. Um, there's no animosity, you know. If I saw him down the street or I saw him, you know, I'd greet him with a handshake and a hug. Um, so I think we're in a good spot. But as far as like being super close, we never really developed that relationship, unfortunately. I think I worked in once on a house show and we had a good one. But other than that, you know, we weren't really tight. But I think there's a definite kind of like amicable respect there.
Now, you wrestled a lot of people in the Brawling Brutes. I want to know who were some of the favorite people that you worked with or some of your favorite matches.
Um, I, the Usos always stand out when me and Pete were tagging together. I know we wrestled. We were married to those guys on the house shows, um, and we wrestled them a couple of times on TV for the tag belts and won in Saudi. And it was always at like they always say it was, you know, the saying goes it was always a night off with those guys, and it was two professionals, two guys that loved wrestling and kind of trusted us as well. Both me and Pete. Uh, it was kind of a great kind of remedy for me personally to go from what the Big E thing and a bit of a confidence builder to go working with those guys because they're just so cool and um, so talented that it just they helped me kind of gain my confidence back a little bit. Um, so I'd say the New Day was a definite highlight for me as far as people who we shared the ring with.
Now, taking it back to Jerry Halliwell, you famously called out her name in a skit you did with WrestleMania Goes to Hollywood, which I love that skit. It was very funny. Can you tell us what it was like filming that skit?
Uh, yeah, I mean, we'd heard the uh, the kind of outline of what was going to happen of that famous scene from 40-Year-Old Virgin. And when I found out that I was going to be the guy getting waxed, I thought, well, it at least lets me show a different side of myself, you know. And I thought, I'm going to run with it and you know show a bit of levity, a little bit of humor in there. I remember being there and getting there really early before the other guys to get this fake hair attached to me that they were going to take off. So I was walking around looking like a well pruned gorilla hours before the shoot. So yeah, it was good times.
Now, eventually your character split from Butch and you went
Mhm.
back to NXT. Why did you decide to do
Yeah,
that?
just because I felt that, um, just because of what happened and the kind of black cloud that was over me and the opinion of me from a few people uh, higher up, producers and things like that. I just felt that for me, I needed to go back to NXT and try reinvent myself and salvage my career because it was either sit in catering and wait to be fired, which I ain't gonna do. I want to wrestle. I want to work. I'm not gonna sit in catering. Or it was go back to NXT and kind of take 5 steps backwards to take 10 steps forward. So that was the kind of crux of the decision that I made was just to go back down there and work and show what I could do in the ring and um, try and scrub some of the negativity off my name, as it were.
Now, when you went back down to NXT, you were massive. Like you looked like you were in the best shape of your life when you went back down there. So I want to know, what did you do different physically? What did you train differently? What did you do?
Um, I'd always been into my training and stuff and looking after myself, but I think a lot of it helped with the schedule. We weren't traveling as much. I could concentrate on getting the correct food in, getting the correct sleep, getting the right training and recovering. Because obviously in NXT we had like TV on a Tuesday, and then maybe one, two house shows that were Florida based. So I think it was just a reduced schedule and me being able to put the time into developing myself physically and doing what I needed to do. and I got myself a coach as well, which always helps, which I would always advise guys to do if you're looking to kind of improve your health and your physical attributes. Hire a coach.
Who were some of your faves working down there with this new crop of people in NXT?
Oh, great question. Hmm. So the first one like was it with Ilya. Um, that was my first match back in NXT, and I would have loved to have worked Ilya more. I think he would have been a great opponent, and I think I would have been great for him as well. Like from his character, he plays kind of like that underdog, fiery baby face really well. Could take a lot of punishment. Um, but the time that I came down in NXT, there was a lot of stories and a lot of irons in the fire for other talent as well. So the Trick was on the come up. We had Ilya, Ethan Page came in. So it it was kind of we started the Ilya thing, but then there'd been a 2 year story arc with Trick. There'd been Ethan who was coming up who needed a push coming from where he came from. So I think that I just got kind of lost in the shuffle and put on the back burner slightly, um, which is no one's fault. It happens. It's just situational. And then I was off TV for a while. But yeah, I mean, I work with the Gallus boys. They're always fun to work. I'm trying to rack my brains as to who I wrestled. There's obviously young guys like a guy called Riley Osborne from the UK who's talent wise can do anything. Unfortunately, he's no longer with the company. I don't know what he's doing now. I hope he's well, but he was super talented. Enjoyed working him. Worked with Tony D, Trick himself. Andre Chase was probably one of my favourite opponents. I would say he's vastly underrated. He's outstanding. Can feint at any role. Super versatile. Great in the ring. Safe. Yeah, I'd probably say Andre Chase was probably my favourite opponent. Favourite person to work with, obviously, because I was in Chase U for a while there, just to bounce off. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you did great work in Chase U and in your singles run. It was great. I thought you were doing your best work down there as well. And then unfortunately, your contract wasn't renewed. So did that come as a surprise to you?
It was weird because I always thought, even though I was doing kind of the best character work of my career, I just felt like that there was something still there. It could be my own mind playing tricks. I mean, I just felt there was always a block, like they never wanted to pull the trigger fully. Um, yeah, and then obviously after I wrestled Trick at Deadline in Minneapolis, I went into a feud with Tony D for the North American. Lost a couple to him. Lost a cage match, which I thought we had a decent cage match. And then I found myself off TV for quite a while, and that always kind of sets the alarm bells off. You know, he asked questions, I was pitching things, and then I remember getting called to be part of a battle royal, where I had an interaction with Inamura, and I pitched for me and him to do like a best of 5 or a best of 7, which I thought would have been really well, but to no avail. And then again off TV for a while. Then I found out that I was going to evolve, and I kind of knew then. I thought, okay, I don't know what the reasons are. It was hard getting answers. I just thought I'm going to try and revamp things a little bit, try and take a left turn. So I went back to the rugby gimmick just to try and freshen things up, try something new, because I thought now's the time, right? It's kind of my back's against the wall. So in the back of my head, I was always thinking it's probably 70-30 as to the I'm on my way out here. And then I went to TNA, had a good match against Mike Santana, and I thought, oh, that might have saved me. Being there and being able to be a little bit more free there and work with someone of the caliber of Mike. And then I got hurt the next day working Moose, and I think if I hadn't got hurt, there's a probability that I might have still been with the company. But unfortunately, like from a business standpoint, you've got a guy that's been with the company, myself, 8 years. He's had multiple injuries. the return on investment's not been the best. So from a business decision, you know, I can understand it, and I'd already renewed my contract when I went down to NXT for an extra year to kind of bet on myself, and yeah, it didn't work out. So it's just sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles.
And unfortunately, you did get released a little early. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, just pure frustration for myself. Going through a little bit of issues, some mental issues. I wasn't in a good place, and I'll advise any young wrestler to stay off Twitter, stay off social media, don't vent on social media. And I didn't really have anyone to really. So it was more or less a coping mechanism, the wrong one, and the company did what the company should have done. You know, I went online and disparaged the company, right or wrong. In the company's eyes, it was wrong, and they took the decision upon themselves to terminate my contract early. You know, my responsibility, and I'll take full ownership.
And then there was a GoFundMe that was started when you were released. Can you tell us
Mm-hmm.
a little bit about what happened? Because it had a little bit of public scrutiny there.
Yeah, I mean, the GoFundMe was set up against or like under my not under my nose, what's the word, like behind my back, as it were, from a family member that was concerned. Obviously, we were having a little bit of trouble here and there, so it all stemmed from somebody trying from overseas, a family member trying to do the best and trying to do the right thing and trying to help, and that's how it came about. And it's like anything that gets posted online, sometimes it misses context and people misconstrue it, and they like to stick knives in, and when they don't know the full story, or they have their own ideas and their own opinions, and then it just gains traction, and negativity on social media breeds like wildfire. So it was something that I didn't want to happen. I didn't want it to happen. It did. The funds that came from it really helped. Like, got us to a real sticky patch. So I'm grateful, but at the same time, it wasn't something that I was truly behind.
Now, once you had the foot injury, you had the neck injury at the same time, correct? You were still hurting
So
with your neck. Can you tell us what
uh,
was going on with
I'd had
both?
it. So the neck was actually bothering me prior to the foot injury. I had a neck issue, a lingering neck issue, for a good probably like 8 months prior. We tried all sorts of different methods, injections, and PT treatment, and it wasn't getting any better. And I was due to go for imaging on my neck, but then the foot injury happened. That needed immediate attention, surgery wise. So the neck went on the back burner. The foot got repaired, and then I thought, okay, well, I might as well see what shape my neck's in from an imaging standpoint. We got the imaging back. We did some nerve testing. Turned out that I had weakness in my right arm and a little bit of atrophy. Um, so I searched for a doctor. I didn't want a fusion. Um, so I searched for a doctor out of Manhattan, Dr. Karishi, and he helped me out massively and put two artificial cervical discs in there. And yeah, as soon as I woke up, total total symptom resolution, and it was great. And my mobility is great. And he's done the same procedure on UFC fighters and professional hockey players that have come back successfully. So it was something that needed to be done, and I feel that I feel tons better now.
And before the surgery, you were lucky enough to fit in an appearance down in Jersey, right? You got to do
Yeah,
a meet and greet. Can you tell us what it was like?
yeah. Obviously, it's something that I've not really done before. I did have a stint on the Indies previously, but nothing as far as like signings was concerned. Good experience. Like, my table was next to Karrion Cross. I'm good friends with Karrion Cross, so it was good to see him again. There was other guys. I think Hacksaw Jim Duggan was there. Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, Jerry Lynn. It was good to get out there and see some of some of the fans. It was great. Yeah, good experience. I had 2 days. I did a kind of like a in-person signing, then I did an online signing the day after. So yeah, overall, good experience.
So, what has the recovery process been like for you?
It's been pretty arduous dealing with kind of like two injuries at once. Like I say, obviously when it comes to injuries, I don't do things by halves. um, so the main thing was just giving myself the grace to recover. It's frustrating, I've got three kids, and they're all young. They all want to play with dad. So that was the hardest bit, not being able to be active. Um, the neck has been really straightforward. The neck's been a breeze. The foot's been the issue because it's such kind of like an intricate injury with multiple joints and things like that, and the hardware in there. So that's been a little bit more of a tedious process. But I had the hardware out on Friday. And yeah, we're off to the races now as far as rehab's concerned. We can really progress.
Now, do you think that people look at athletes and think that they're invincible even when they're not, as far as when it comes to like injuries and things like that?
I mean, especially in the wrestling business, like because of what it is and it moves so fast. I just think that people don't realize how hard it actually is physically. Um, and I think because they've seen people come back really quickly from injuries, your likes of, John Cena coming back in what was it like 3 4 months from a torn pec, and like coming number 30 in the Rumble and things, and other individuals coming back really quickly from injuries. I just don't think it gets looked upon with the severity that it deserves. Um, but it just goes to show that like medically, WWE, they have a great medical team there that really help and really help guys get back. Um, quicker than what they would have if they were just a regular individual working a regular job, if they'd have picked up that injury, playing softball at the weekend, or doing whatever. Like for instance, with my legs, it took me 10 months. When I came back, the medical teams told me that they thought that I'd never wrestle again. So they knew it was a lot worse than what I thought it was. Um, but yeah, it's the body, and you can only push the body so far. We've all got a limit, and when you're on the road, you're bumping, you're working out in the gym, and obviously not sleeping, under recovering. You're kind of burning the candle at both ends, and you've only got so much wax.
Now, how much of your identity was tied to being a WWE superstar?
Oh, oh pretty much all of it. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that people can make in young wrestlers is it's what you do. It's not who you are. And just for sanity's sake, I always, if anyone's asked for advice, I always say just don't don't be in the bubble. Have one foot out and one foot in, and be able to transition between the two. Because if you're constantly living it, and the way that the business is, and in WWE, it's constant stress. Like, okay, you're not really job secure. Anything can happen. Injuries. Am I going to get a push? Is my performance up to scratch? We're always searching for validation outside of ourselves, and that is a massive stress. And I think that's what people's identity gets tied to is I'm a WWE superstar and nothing else matters. For young wrestlers, they need to realize that love it, be the best that you can, but do it for you. Don't do it for anyone else, and always take time to step outside the bubble, because if you live in that bubble constantly, you're going to go crazy, definitely. So just making sure that you're always enjoying yourself as you're doing it, and it's hard sometimes. You're always under pressure, but just try and don't forget why you started, because sometimes that can get pushed to the wayside.
Now, while you've been recovering, I've seen that you're taking online classes, getting into online coaching. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, what you've been up to?
Yeah, so I've been before I even started wrestling, and while I was rugby, I was a personal trainer. I've trained people for quite a number of years, and um, I got an opportunity to work for a company called Silverback, and we help like high performing businessmen, like 35 up that have kind of like neglected their own health in the endeavor of growing their businesses. So what we do is we try and say, okay, listen, the way that we're going to do, we're going to help you perform better from a health perspective, so that you can show up better at work, at home, and things like that. So it's great, and I love giving back. I love helping people and improving people's health. I think that's for me, it's a real worthwhile purpose. Trying to get someone who is struggling health wise, and when you see them improve week on week and gain that confidence in the gym and gain that confidence outside the gym as well, with what they're doing inside the gym with the nutrition and sleep and things, that's that kind of fills me with a definite sense of purpose. Yeah.
What did this period of time teach you about yourself?
That nothing is guaranteed. About myself as well is that you're going to struggle. Like, there'll always be tough times, but it's taught me how to, through making mistakes, through the downs, you just been able to realize that there's always a way up, there's always a way out, and it's a mindset thing. Don't try and, if something happens, yeah, feel those feelings and stuff, but understand that there's only you that can change things. So you just need to get back on the bike and slowly but surely get back to doing what you want to do. And again, just an identity thing. It's kind of taught me that wrestling, it's not, don't make it your entire world. There's other things that you can pull enjoyment from, and I think a lot what I did in my career, because I loved it so much and I wanted to do so well, I kind of suffocated it and strangled the life out of my own passion. And so what it's taught me is that, like, just have fun, just enjoy it, because it's going to end one day. So there's no point stressing. You might as well just go there and just try and take whatever joy out of what you're doing.
Is there any chance that we'll see you back in the wrestling ring? Do you feel that you have any unfinished business that you want to go out there and take care of?
Uh, there's Initially when I got hurt, I was like, I'm done, just because of everything that happened. I was like, I need to just step away and recalibrate. But I never really got the chance to go out there and, like I said, truly enjoy it and feel like me and show me out there, because I was always kind of like a little bit inconfident after prior experiences. So I think I never really achieved. I never really got to show what I was capable of. So there is a big part of me that wants to, go out there, and not for anyone else, not for any outside validation, but just maybe just do it for me. Whether or not that'll, come to fruition, I don't know yet. But there is a little itch there that I still feel like I need to scratch, but I'm a little far off from making a concrete decision yet.
Now we know who Ridge Holland is. So my
Mm-hmm.
question for you is, who is Luke Menzies?
And that's something I'm still trying to figure out. I'm 37 years old, and I've always been a pro athlete, so everything has always been performance based, and in a way searching for other people's validation. So now I think at this point, it's putting my energy into you know gratitude and being there for my kids and being present, because a lot of the time we're not present. We're always thinking about what's next in the wrestling business and doing what we do, and when you're in a high performance situation. So I think alongside with helping people, with the health and seeing people prosper and get the health in check, and then being there with my family, I just want to. I don't know if this is answering your question, but um, I think Luke Menzies is. I'm just a normal fella from the north of England who managed to get an opportunity to go across the world and live out his dream. And I'm still. I think we're all still trying to figure out who we really are. I think that's a never-ending quest, right? who's anybody? You know, ask me when I'm on my deathbed, and I might be able to tell you. But as for now, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and it's my job to make sure that those individuals are catered for and looked after and happy. So
What would you like your legacy to be?
probably someone that never that that never really gave up. That no matter what happened, we always kind of I always kept stepping forward. Um, and I always like I love people, so I think those that know me, I hope that they they think that um, I enrich their lives as much as they enrich mine.
What are you most proud of?
Mm. Most proud of taking taking risks in spite of other people's opinions. I think the big thing for me is family, and I think I took a risk not only for probably like individual gain, but for the opportunity that it would give to my family and to try and give them a better life. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, working hard and trying to do the best what I can for the people around me.
Okay, and now it's for the riskiest time of all, Luke. We're gonna play the lightning round. I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you two things, and you tell me which one you prefer.
Okay.
Would you rather be in a gauntlet match or a battle royal?
Gauntlet.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
What's scarier to drive through, a bridge or a tunnel?
Uh, Depends on the bridge. Bridge.
Which do you lose more, your keys or your phone?
Keys.
Would you rather only be able to talk in wrestling promos or only be able to walk like a ring entrance?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably do the ring entrance.
Would you rather have a personal chef or a personal driver?
Personal chef.
Do you prefer to call or text?
Depends on the person. Uh, Text.
What's more embarrassing, spilling coffee on yourself in public or tripping over nothing in public?
I've done both. Tripping over nothing.
Do you prefer the 80s or the 90s?
Oh man. Music 80s. Um, like wrestling 90s.
Would you rather accidentally call someone by their real name or would you rather forget a line mid-promo?
Forget a line mid promo. I can always wing it.
Ping pong or air hockey?
Ping pong.
And finally, who is your favorite Spice Girl? Scary, baby, ginger, posh, or sporty?
Gary, because she's from the same town as me.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, Luke.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
What would you
Appreciate you
like to
having me.
say to what would you like to say to all the fans watching today?
Just thank you. I you know I didn't do a great deal, but for what I did, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I made either some people laugh or just feel something. So I appreciate the sport either way.
And can you tell everybody how they can keep up with you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm just in the middle of changing my Instagram handle, but it's still at Ridge WWE, and then on Twitter it's at LD Menzies.
And then you guys can follow me on Instagram at official Mike Rand, on Facebook, official Mike Rand. On X, I am Mike Rand com, just like the website MikeRand.com. And of course, be sure to like, subscribe right here on YouTube at official Mike Rand or youtube.com/the Mike Rand. Plus, we're on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and hopefully we'll be all over the place. And now, guys, what Luke and I want, what we really, really want, guys, is for you to have a great day. And we hope you tune in next time and take care. Thank you again, Luke. And we will see you
Thank you.
all next time. Bye, everybody.